You've heard of it before, Simpson-Bowles, Bowles-Simpson, depending on what you want to call it, the bipartisan commission put together by President Obama in February of 2010 to try to find a solution for the country's fiscal problems. The plan contained a mix of spending cuts, tax increases, all designed to reduce the budget deficit to 2.2% of GDP. Everyone praised it, and then everyone ran away from it. Two congressmen, though, stepped up and proposed a bipartisan budget plan based on Simpson-Bowles and introduced it in the House.
This is the only bipartisan way to solve the nation's problems. This is the only budget that has a chance of getting through both the House and the Senate.
We have been viciously attacked from the left and the right, and when you know you have a good deal is when the left and the right are pounding the snot out of you.
Well, their efforts got them a total of 38 votes, including themselves. Joining me now are the two congressmen who introduced the Simpson-Bowles-based budget, Tennessee Democrat Jim Cooper and Ohio Republican Steve LaTourette. 38 votes. 38 votes. Congressman Cooper, how frustrating was that moment? I remember when you guys introduced it, I thought for sure there would be 80. I mean, I think we knew it wouldn't pass. What happened?
Well, everybody likes to talk brave. Very few people want to be brave. We had almost 100 people indicate strong interest, and 100 people had showed up at a previous press conference. But there's a big difference between that and voting. So what happened on the afternoon of the vote, a lot of the interest groups in America on the left and the right totally hammered us. And since a lot of folks thought it wasn't going to pass anyway, they just cut and ran.
Congressman, that does seem like what everybody was thinking about their reelection. So if you were a Republican, you were worried about Grover Norquist, and if you were a Democrat, you were worried about, maybe it's AARP or maybe it's somebody else just bashing you over the Social Security provisions. But, I still, all of this praise to Bowles-Simpson. Paul Ryan praises Bowles-Simpson. He voted against it.
Well, a lot of people obviously voted against it, about 398. First of all, just to correct you, we never call it Bowles-Simpson, because that's BS. We call it Simpson-Bowles, if we could.
You really are a guy not running for re-election, aren't you? But you can say those things now.
But second of all, Jim's exactly right. We had a lot of people who were interested in this. A lot of people are interested in. The president says he's open to it, but he's never sent up any Simpson-Bowles proposals to Capitol Hill. Paul Ryan says he's interested, but that wasn't his budget. In that 6 hours between when they announced the schedule and we had the vote at 9 o'clock in the afternoon, people were pounded. I mean,
who was doing it? Who was whipping? Was this Eric Cantor whipping on one side, Steny Hoyer whipping on the other?
No, the whips organizations were not involved at all. It was outside.
I mean, McCarthy is the whip, obviously. But
yeah, but it was outside groups.
Outside groups.
Outside groups. And so on the Republican side, you had the Grover Norquist. I talked to Grover that evening, and he said, "Oh, there's this increase, $2 trillion tax increase." I said, "I don't think so." And groups like that, Club for Growth, Heritage Action, so forth and so on. Right. On the left, you have Labor, AARP, and a variety of others.
Don't you, Congressman Cooper? Don't you? Isn't the irony here that maybe actually lame duck is the only time you can do it, because it's the actual farthest away from an election you can get is that sort of 60-day period between the November elections and the new Congress being sworn in?
Chuck, you're right, and you know politics better than anybody. That is farthest from the next election, but it's also an illegitimate Congress. I'm calling it the zombie Congress, because at least 100...
You think it's an illegitimate Congress?
Well, 100 members will be unelected, but they'll still have a voting card. So they might be braver, but they've also been unelected. So there'll be a big push on to kick all the problems down to next year, the real Congress.
What's your opinion on that? Should it be, or should the lame duck deal with this?
I'm for action now, even before the election. Yeah. We've got to face these problems.
Aren't you guys in recess? Well, the House is already gone, right?
We only have 3 more days of Congress before we leave for the November 6th election. Right. That's ridiculous. We're not even passing a farm bill. After the worst drought in half a century, we're not even allowed to vote on a farm bill. So this is the way Congress, the modern Congress, is acting. It's not even a Congress. It's a parliament, and a very poor parliament.
All right, pick up on what Congressman Cooper said. Are you an illegitimate voter now? You're not running for re-election, and you're going to be in this lame duck.
Well, with all due respect to my friend Jim, I will not have been unelected. I will not have been re-elected because I chose not to run. I think, if going back to the super committee, if the super committee had been made up of retiring members, we would have had a deal. If you have a lame duck session on an issue as important to this, I think people will find the courage, perhaps, where they...
What's the election result that's needed to force this to happen before December 31st?
I hate to speculate on that, because my opinion would be at odds with what I wish would happen, to tell you the truth.
So that means, I've heard this, that it's a Obama re-election, maybe a tie in the Senate, narrower House Republican majority, that you sort of, where everybody feels as if they don't have full-fledged power. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that scenario would embolden our Speaker Boehner to go back to the president and try and recreate that big deal that they were so close to about a year and a half ago.
Congressman Cooper, what do you expect to actually happen in this lame duck? I've heard speculation of they'll rejigger the sequester for a year, punt it for everything will get punted 6 months to a year. Is that the reality here?
Well, I'm hoping for bravery and wisdom. I just hope we'll avoid gridlock, because that would be an accomplishment for this Congress. With a closer majority, I think they'll have to reach out to the other party and hopefully be sensible about the fiscal cliff that is rapidly approaching.
And you're going to reintroduce your bill when?
About the day after the election.
Day after the election. All right, Congressman Cooper, Congressman LaTourette, we'll be watching Tennessee and Ohio together. We'll see.
Thanks.
How will Wall Street react to a just